Hello and welcome back once again to CBR MTG. My name is Angus Mackay. I'm joined here by Frank Karamarudis.
Hello.
And we are playing Highlander this time at GP Sydney 2018. Coming down to the last few videos we have for this playlist, so please enjoy Michael Billinghurst on Grixis Control versus James Caesar on Red White Hatebears. A little run through of both the decks. We've had Grixis Control on this channel before, and I'll link it in the description. But it's essentially it's called Kess Pile as well because of the new commander card Kess Descent Mage, which is a flying 3/4 for Grixis colorless, and she has the ability that lets you play a creature, lets you play a spell from your graveyard each turn. Is that a non-creature spell?
So it's essentially a per turn Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, sure, but it only works on your turns.
Yeah, but it's also a huge body and it's a recursive effect.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So why, Angus, is she so good in this format? Because she's a staple at this point, but also she hasn't seen a lot of play in other formats that are not singleton.
She has made a very, very small amount of waves in Vintage, and I think a little bit of Legacy as well. She's definitely caused discussion from Wizards of the Coast around the new rule pertaining to foil-only cards being able to have their own proxies at competitive REL, considering the bend value on some of these foil-only cards. But the reason that she's become a mainstay in Grixis Control in Highlander is that she, because of the power of the cards that you can play, you're playing, in this format, unlike any other, you're playing Treasure Cruise, and you're playing Time Walk, and you're playing, like, even just good value spells, like, as we see from Michael's hand, a Colligan's Command, and a Hymn to Torok, you know, like, all of these spells, and this is, like, kind of a tap-out control version. The Kess Pile is definitely a little bit more tap-out control with more sorceries, because you really want to capitalize on your turn Snapcaster Mage, not their turn Snapcaster Mage.
She's also a good beater in herself.
Oh,
she's
yeah.
a good finisher.
Absolutely.
And in a format where you have so many different cards, because it's a singleton format, she gives you that versatility that is kind of hard to find.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a format like this, and that's why she's been such a staple. What about James' deck?
James, local CBR MTG regular, is playing his own brew of Red White Hatebears. This is it's an aggro deck, straight and true. We're playing as many as Vance from the committee would say, as many Savannah Lions as we possibly can, which are 1 and 2 mana that beat the bear test. So either 2 1s for 1 or 2 3s for 2. In this case, we're just saying a Harsh Mentor, which is a straight bear, is a 2/2 for 2. However, it does have the taxing effect that James will be utilizing to kind of fend against these other fair decks by taxing them in their fetch lands, taxing them in their Planeswalker activations. It's Harsh Mentor is a very good sort of showing for this deck, you know?
Yeah, it looks like Hatebears is kind of just like its generic namesake in other formats. It's a Death and Taxes list.
Yeah, absolutely.
It plays like efficient creatures that may not be the most competitive, although they are like very Savannah Lion-esque, but they do fill a role, and that is to, tax your opponent.
Yeah.
And it looks like James is a little bit stuck on lands here, but you can also see a Will of the Councils, I think the card is.
No, the Will of the Councils is the ability of the cards.
Oh.
Council's Judgment.
Council's Judgment.
Will of the Council. Each starting with you, each player votes for each player votes for a permanent they don't control.
It's just they vote for a permanent
that James doesn't control. Yeah, so it works a little bit different in multiplayer games because you can all vote for different things and have them tie. But for Council's Judgment, it's essentially just I'm going to vote for a permanent I don't control. You can also vote for a permanent I don't control, but you're probably better off choosing the same one that I choose.
Yeah, and it looks like he discarded a Brimez and a Stromkirk Noble, it looked like.
It looks like it, yeah.
But he is slamming down the Magus of the Moon. And that falls straight into the mentality of playing, just a medium creature, but with a very hateful effect that, as we're going to see, is pretty efficient against Michael, because he does only have one basic right now.
Michael's going to have to work hard to make this dig through time work. He will have to find a one mana or 0 mana interaction, which there isn't much in the singleton format, but there are some. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to find it. We did see a Mana Leak and an Abrade, which will be good cards for this matchup, but not in this exact instance. So he's going to have to fight pretty hard to get through that Magus of the Moon.
Yeah, well, the Abrade is such an efficient card. Course, yeah. It's been kind of a staple in Standard, and it's starting to see some more eternal play, especially in Modern. But yeah, it kind of blows my mind that something that doesn't seem that powerful on paper is just such an efficient card, and seeing play in Highlander and some legacy lists.
Well, the good news is that never mind. I was about to say the good news is that Michael will have to choose between taking out the Magus of the Moon or taking out the Sword of Fire and Ice, which are both huge threats. But fortunately, he had the answer for both in the form of Fire from Fire and Ice and Abrade, as we mentioned before. Abrade kind of pushing really hard in Highlander because there's a lot of artifact-based decks in these Eternal formats. Like, this is like, you could play this in Vintage because the amount of artifact decks in Legacy, not a whole lot. In Highlander, huge.
He almost pressed the progress. That would have been delightful.
Oh yeah, that's for the kill, right? We have 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah, it would have been lethal if he had cracked that fetch, which he did. So it was lucky that he had that spell snare as well.
I can't tell if Michael's deck is just doing a very good showing, or if James is just kind of being short on lands for so many turns has let Michael have that good showing. And I'm not sure what it actually is. I mean, the Grixis Control decks are one of the top in the meta right now, right?
Yeah, one of the best cards for sure. Which is, I 100% agree. It's very, very bizarre that James hasn't been able to push through, because these I was able to get that through. These decks, the aggro decks, do really well against these Grixis Control lists, because like Michael's planning on building up eventual card advantage by answering your threats with one card, and then like building up card draw or whatever in his next for the rest of his mana. But the aggro decks beat that, and this happens in every format. Aggro decks beat that by playing 2 or 3 spells a turn.
Yeah, having efficiently costed spells and being able to deal with being 1-for-1 means that the aggressive decks often have a good time. It does look like Michael's list is full of counter spells and 1-for-1 removal, although we did see that Toxic Deluge, which was pretty good. In dealing with Thalia. But Thalia is definitely one of the key cards for James to win. So he had a solid start. It was just by the time he started to get his engine going, Michael had already stabilized pretty efficiently, and now he's just going to close out the game. Yeah,
it's he's not out of the woods yet. James does play a lot of burn in his list. We're seeing Michael play a fact or fiction to just try and shore up that card advantage. And James choosing an interesting pile, I suppose, with, I believe, Edict and Fatal Push over Bolt and a land. But, I don't think we're bolting here. I think we're just going to, get in this 5 damage each time with the Snapcaster and the Creeping Tar Pit, and just going from there. Yeah,
it looks like he made that pile because of the redundancy just in that pile.
Sure.
It was either removal spell, or a bolt. And the bolt's probably more impactful here because he either finds an answer or a creature that can't be dealt with, or he loses.
Yeah.
So he needs the burn card. And with the double removal suite that was in this pile, that was the best of a bad situation.
Okay, sure. It does definitely turn off his Needle Spires for the time being. Mum was definitely a good draw, but it just kind of wasn't going to be enough, unfortunately, because the Needle Spires could definitely close out this game very quickly, especially if you were greedy enough to attach a Jit to it. But he needed that mother to live. Unfortunately, she just didn't get there.
Did the Needle Spire
Needle
survive?
Spires is still there, but it's dead to the Fatal Push in Michael's hand.
Yeah, the glare is a little bit intense with this.
Unfortunately, yeah. This was our this is from our first day filming. We're almost running out of videos, guys, just FYI, but this is from our first day. We got the table directly under the light, and unfortunately we said a couple of words to CFB, and they were very gracious to be able to move us by the second day.
This was my fault. I was on camera this day.
No.
Oh, no.
No. You don't control the lights, my friend.
No, the glare wasn't, but if you see any wrong numbers or, poorly placed codes.
I love how you had the chance to never accept responsibility for those mistakes, and you chose to take it up anyway.
I try to be an adult at least 30% of the time.
Well, I like it. Going to sideboards now.
That's what you can expect here at CBR MTG, where we're responsible and engaging.
Absolutely. We're looking at sideboards now. Unfortunately, someone didn't put the hand cams in the correct position. But I know James is thinking about bringing in that Rest in Peace. If he does have the Blood Moon in the board, as a lot of aggro decks do, quite possibly bringing that in as well, because Blood Moon, very good against Grixis Control. They don't have a lot of cheap, efficient Blood Moon enchantment removal because they're not playing white and they're not playing green, so you might get a bit lucky.
Yeah. In this, the previous game, the Magus of the Moon didn't look that good because Michael's deck is built to defeat creatures.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
To get kind of just a strict upgrade in the sense of just a Blood Moon, which is much harder to interact with. That means that Michael only has counter spells or discard.
Yeah.
And yeah, with Michael's mana being inherently very greedy, I think it's a huge pick for him.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's been a hotly contended discussion in the Highlander community about are we okay with Blood Moon in the format? And I think every format has had that discussion, right? You're just you don't have the right to cast spells. If you want to have a greedy mana base, then you have to make precautions to protect yourself against a Blood Moon.
Yeah, I think we discussed this in another video, but Blood Moon is just super important to keep a format in check.
Yeah, for sure.
You see decks, like Highlander, where it's only duels, or you see a deck like Modern Humans, which plays one basic.
Yeah.
That is very, very powerful, but it also has a steep cost. And if you can mess with the mana, you can even out. And I think the card is very important. But you do also have Back to Basics and Wasteland and Blood Moon in this format.
Yeah.
Which is another important thing to know.
And there's definitely decks that really capitalize on that land destruction in this format as well. Whether or not you're playing Fastbond, Corsair of Krufix, Wasteland combo with a Crucible of Worlds out as well. That's just infinite Wastelands or infinite Strip Mines if you can get there in the Gardening Australia deck, or you can also play one of the decks that I'm playing, which is just essentially 4 Moon, where you're playing green-red ramp, and you're trying to combo out, you're trying to sneak out a Blood Moon as quickly as possible. There are decks that take advantage of that whole situation, but for the most part, it's not a Blood Moon format. And Magic isn't a Blood Moon game, It's just some people like to play Blood Moon, and they should be, they should enjoy it. Why not?
James's hand is looking very good, but also at the cost of his lands.
Yeah.
It is important to note that was the first piece of power that we've seen just so far.
Yep. 3 points and a Mox Pearl. So one of the more expensive cards of the format for sure, but very good in the very good in these Hatebears decks, because being able to play a Leon Arbiter turn 2 is not a small feat. Turn 1.
And Leon Arbiter is, one of the premier Hatebears.
Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't see much legacy play, but a huge staple in modern Hatebears.
And Highlander.
Yeah, sure.
Just because fetches are so much more important in this format where you only have one of the duels.
Yeah.
And that means that, there's so much more value to fetching the correct land.
And you're almost always priced into playing 7 or 8, maybe even 10 fetch lands. And you can get really punished for that for sure. But it's also a brainstorm format. Let's not forget that. Like, there's only a few brainstorm effects in Highlander, but they are used in every blue deck. So being able to stop the best part of a brainstorm, which is shuffling, really helps us out.
James's hand is looking very red here, when all he has are white lands.
Yeah,
or land-like abilities.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be a pretty hard slog from James here. We can't see much under the glare, but there's definitely a Batterskull and a Magus of the Moon, a Lightning Bolt, and a Braid, a Lightning Helix, and perhaps another card that I've misremembered. However,
Price of Progress?
Yeah, I think Price of Progress might be in there as well. But
honestly, nothing feels worse than when your opponent Vendilion clicks you and is like, no, you can keep that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's yours now.
You can take it. Yeah. And now I think Michael's just trying to put some stuff down as quickly as possible and just get the game going.
Yeah, he can see that James's end is in the near future, and he's trying to capitalize on that by being a little bit aggressive. But also, he does have 3 mana open, and he's choosing to let the Stoneforge survive, because if James is going to use his ability, it's going to take his whole turn, and he can't equip it to Stoneforge that turn.
Yep.
And then Michael does have the Lightning Bolt in his hand to really just kind of rub it in. So
he does have that. He has a plethora of choices. Unfortunately, this is not looking good for James, because he does have a Colligan's Command in hand, a Lightning Bolt, and an Anger of the Gods that he can choose to deploy pretty much at any time. James having to even go to hand size for that Stoneforge Mystic activation, getting rid of that Sulfuric Vortex. Unfortunately, with the mana being a bit screwed, he wasn't able to capitalize on it. But Sulfuric Vortex is a very good card in this deck. James is trying to end the game as quickly as possible, and Sulfuric Vortex really this is a card. Like, it doesn't matter how much damage you're taking. True to Burn's nature, very chaotic, but you're taking damage, they're taking damage, but you're also swinging for 5 each turn.
Yeah, that's kind of the point. As long as you can put on some early pressure, Sulfuric Vortex is very good at closing out the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not as big of a deal in Michael's deck, but there is a lot of life game in the format, through be it Courser or what is the orb?
Zoran Orb.
Yeah.
Sacrifice a land for 0, gain 2 life.
Yeah, that's kind of a staple in...
Also a combo with Crucible of Worlds and Fast Bond. That's infinite life. Good times.
There's...
Scary format.
There are infinite combos everywhere.
Yeah.
Lots of fun for everyone.
Oh dear. If James is going to have to go to hand size, this is going to be very unfortunate for him, because Michael might even be okay to just let... yeah, okay, sure. I was just going to say, he might be okay with just letting the... Oh, he is. Okay, sure. I was going to say he might just kill the Stoneforge Mystic in response to the activation, because a Stoneforge Mystic on 2 equipment on the battlefield, no creatures. He doesn't really care about that, but it looks like he's going to try and get some extra value with the Colligan's Command. Douche. Yeah, that's...
I was going to say, he is... James may be incentivized to use Stoneforge's ability that turn, so he doesn't have to discard, but also if Michael had an answer, which clearly he does with a million mana open and just his whole hand, that means that James has nothing to do on his turn and is essentially dead. And he was still dead, but it made Michael kind of waste that mana. And so I think that was good. Also, the Chain Lightning wasn't going to be super helpful for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to be very hard for him to get Chain Lightning in those last few turns. Great. Well, yeah, fantastic showing once again from Grixis Control. Definitely a behemoth in the format. So we'll be keeping an eye on Grixis Control and see how high it can go. But yeah, great job both players. Thank you so much once again for listening to CBR MTG and catching our footage from GP Sydney. My name is Angus. I'm joined by Frank.
See ya.
Have a great one.